to non-narcissists who realize they are either partnered with or married to narcissists, they have been going through the discard phase and they want to stick it out. They want to justify to themselves that this is a cyclical thing that they can somehow bear.
The powers of self-delusion are enormous, especially if the fantasy caters to deep-set, real psychological needs that have never been met before. For example, the need to self-love, the need to feel safe, the need to feel understood and accepted, the need to feel that you are superior because you are somewhat narcissistic, and it caters to your grandiosity when the narcissist tells you you are, a perfect being or a perfect entity. There's also that. So if these deep-set fundamental needs are being met in the fantasy, there's little incentive to abandon ship. And so then the partner would create counterfactual narratives, would create justifications of the narcissist's behaviors. One possible such narrative is, it's all my fault. Had I only behaved differently, if I only done that or said that, or if I only refrained from saying this or doing this, I would have been treated well. So it's all my fault. That's one, we call it the autoplastic narrative. Another type of narrative is going through a difficult period. It's a passing phase. Another narrative is, well, that's the way he is, when he's loving, his love is like nothing else. And when he's abusive, it's worth the price. The price is worth the price. And so there are many such self-deceiving narratives. They're self-deceiving because none of them is true. None of them is real. What is the only narrative that's real is the clinical narrative. The narcissist is inexorably drawn into a fantasy, and the fantasy dominates the narcissist. Narcissist has no control over the fantasy. And as I just said, the fantasy is inexorable in the sense that narcissists cannot stop the fantasy, rechannel the fantasy, reframe the fantasy. The fantasy is in full control and mastery. The narcissist is its slave. And the fantasy has well-defined phases: idealization, devaluation, and ultimately discard. They're inevitable phases, nothing to be done. Even the narcissist cannot do anything about it.
Sam, is there a difference between selfishness and narcissism?
Well, egotism or selfishness are derogatory terms. Narcissism is a clinical term. And one could even say that in certain types of circumstances, selfishness is healthy. Putting yourself first is a healthy thing. Not putting yourself first is actually an indication of pathology. So we say, for example, that people pleasers it's a pathological state, pathological set of behaviors, Masochists, it's a pathology. I mean, I can name 10 pathologies. Codependency, I can name 10 types of pathologies where the individual puts himself or herself, their needs, last. That also applies in certain societal, cultural contexts. For example, mothers are supposed to put themselves last.
Yes.
In many societies, wives are supposed to put themselves last.
Yes.
I would even say that universally, children have to put themselves last. Like if you have an aging mother or
yes,
you have to cater to their needs. You have to take care of them. You have to sacrifice yourself, your family, your money, your time, your resources to take care of them. None of this is healthy.
Agreed.
None of this is healthy, and none of this can be justified either psychologically or philosophically, even ethically. None of it. So I would say that selfishness, unfortunately, we don't have a word in English, which is the antonym or the opposite of selflessness.
Yeah.
But okay, let's say that selfishness is the opposite of selflessness, and I would say that selfishness is healthy, whereas narcissism is not.
You're so right. We need a middle word that summarizes, because what you're describing, I've seen people I love do it, and it's never a bill that's fully paid, right? In terms of it's, situationally putting an aging parent first for a moment or a day or this, that bill never gets paid. And once you get locked in that cycle, I see it's so difficult for people to get out of it.
Yes, because it's a clinging, needy form of emotional blackmail. We call it, clinically, we call it control from the bottom.
Interesting.
Yes, you control people by rendering yourself helpless and needy. And this creates an ambience of extortion. Like, if you don't take care of me, I'm going to die. Or if you don't do this for me, I don't know how to do it by myself, and I'm incapable of learning how to do it. And so on and so forth. These are all forms of blackmail. I would suggest the word selffulness.
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 Interesting.
I think selffulness is healthy, whereas perhaps selfishness is frowned upon socially,
Yes.
albeit it's not pathological, and narcissism is pathological. But selffulness, like mindfulness, selffulness is, I think, very, very healthy. It is the self that defines boundaries. It is the self that informs us where we stop and the world begins, and vice versa. It is the self that fulfills very critical functions. For example, reality testing.
What is reality testing, Sam?
Reality testing is the ability to tell what's real and what's not. What the narcissist does to you, the narcissist impairs your reality testing. The narcissist challenges your perception of reality. The narcissist does it unintentionally, not deliberately, as the psychopath does. Psychopath gaslights you. The narcissist gaslights you unintentionally. So within the fantasy, the narcissist tells you everything you think you know about reality is wrong. You perceive other people wrongly. For example, maybe you're too weak, or you're too submissive and people are taking advantage of you, or you shouldn't love your friend because she's backstabbing you and betraying you, or whatever you think you know about the government is wrong. So there's a lot of conspiracism involved and so on. This is when your reality testing collapses or becomes impaired, and you begin to rely on the narcissist as your sole exclusive gauge of reality. So you're going to come to the narcissist and say, tell me, is this real? Do you think it's real? Do you believe it? Is it believable? As if you have no mind of your own. You have outsourced your mind. The shared fantasy is when you outsource your mind and your ego functions, that's a clinical term, to the narcissist. And he becomes your external mind, like an external hard drive, he becomes your external mind.
I love that analogy. And what you mentioned too about the sort of isolating of the non-narcissist to keep them from, I think we can see many examples of this in our popular culture today, to keep the victim from the others in their lives who actually would serve as reality enforcers, right? Whether it's a family of origin or long-standing friends, that if they're going to counter the narcissist version of events, they have to go.
Yes. There are two reasons for that. The narcissist superimposes, we call it projection. The narcissist projects, superimposes his own distorted and thwarted mind on others and on reality. So he says, they're doing the same thing. They have their own fantasies. I have my own fantasy. They have their own fantasies. Friendship, it's a fantasy. Love, that's a fantasy. Empathy, BS, it's a fantasy. It's all fantasy because it's the only thing the narcissist knows. It's the only kind of experience the narcissist has. And so the narcissist superimposes this conceptual framework of fantasy on others. And then, if you have a friend, if you have the narcissist partner and you have a friend, so that these are two competing fantasies. Your friendship, which is a fantasy in the narcissist's mind, it's not real. Your friendship competes with his fantasy. So he needs to eliminate the competition. So that's one reason. Second reason, friends, family, co-workers, institutions such as the church or, I don't know, your therapist.
A royal family, perhaps.
A royal family, perhaps, on some occasions. They offer you sustenance, vigor, succor, strength, resilience. They render you immune to the narcissist fantasy. That is something the narcissist cannot countenance or accept. He needs to convert you into a susceptible entity. If we use immunology, like COVID-19, he needs to take away your immune system. Because
I love that.
Because his fantasy is a mind virus. He needs to infect you with a fantasy. As long as you have an immunological system, which is comprised of people around you and their inputs, that's not going to work. So when you're isolated, your mind plays tricks on you. We know this. That's a clinical fact. When you're isolated, your mind plays tricks on you. And then it appears as if the narcissist is the only stable presence, the only person you can trust.
Right.
The only gauge and measure of reality, and you latch onto the narcissist as if you're adrift in the ocean and you kind of latch onto a piece of driftwood, you know. So that's what he does to you. He removes from your life all certainty, all determinacy, all stability, all reality, and then he renders you dependent by doing this. You become addicted to the self-aggrandizing, idealizing aspects on the one hand, and you become addicted to your newly found self-love on the one hand, but on the other hand, you are rendered so weak, so mentally emaciated, that the narcissist becomes your only lifeline. He maintains exclusivity.
So is this what would be termed the folie à deux, where the non-narcissist then becomes sort of fully psychologically, emotionally dependent, and in order to survive has to mesh themselves into that delusion, into that noxious fantasy?
Yes, absolutely. The shared fantasy, which is a term coined by Sander in 1989, was just another rendition of what we used to be known as folie à deux, and today is known as mass psychogenic illness. That's a clinical term, the updated clinical term. So yeah, these are two people where one of them is a leader, one of them is a narrative generator, one of them is the author, and the other one is a character. So it's exactly like a video game or a movie, where there's a director and a producer and a screenwriter, and then there are actresses and actors, and you are an actress in the narcissist fantasy. Again, let me clarify, half of all narcissists are women. I'm using he because it's a Victorian literary convention. And I'm very Victorian.
I love the way your mind works. I love these descriptors and allegories and metaphors you come up with. You just bring it all so vividly to life. Do you love olive oil? If so, have you ever tasted it farm fresh? If not, your first taste will be a revelation. Just born of earth and tree, farm fresh olive oil is bright, vivid, grassy. It's like a garden in a bottle, and it adds amazing flavor to all of your meals. Listen, if we insist on fresh milk and eggs, fresh meat and fish, fresh fruits and veggies, we should insist on fresh olive oil, because in every case, freshness makes a huge difference in flavor and in nutrition. But you'll never find fresh olive oils in supermarkets where they can sit on the shelf for months or even years. Prove the difference to yourself with a free $39 bottle direct from an award-winning artisanal farm. Pay just $1 to help cover shipping, and your $39 bottle is free, courtesy of TJ Robinson, known worldwide as the olive oil hunter. TJ searches the world for the best tasting olive oil, and he ships it direct at peak farm fresh flavor and nutrition. Try your first bottle free with no obligation or commitment to buy anything. For your free $39 bottle, go to farmfresh222.com. That's farmfresh222.com, farmfresh222.com.